You know what I like? Games. We all like video games, and I'm pretty sure all of us like some games more than others. It just so happens that a game that a lot of people tend to like more than a lot of other games is Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64.
It's me, Mario!
Mario 64 was released in 1996 as a Nintendo 64 launch title. At the time, it was praised for being one of the best Mario titles ever made, if not the best. But how well does it hold up today? First, let's talk about graphics. Super Mario 64 is a 3D platforming game, so the world is made up of both 2D sprites and 3D polygons, but mostly of 3D polygons. The game's colors are usually very vibrant and pop out of the TV screen. Take for example Bob-omb Battlefield or Whomp's Fortress. The colors just pop. The polygons aren't the greatest by today's standards though, and that's putting it lightly. But it can be forgiven due to the fact that this game has a personality of its own. Super Mario 64's aesthetic is totally unique. This helps with the graphical quality a bit because even though the polygons and textures haven't aged well at all, the game is still very charming and fun to look at. Next, let's talk about the story. Bowser kidnaps the princess and takes all the power stars away from the castle. It's up to you, as Mario, to retrieve all 120 power stars, even though you only need 70 to beat the game, restore the power to the castle, and save the princess. It's your basic, run-of-the-mill Mario story. But this format of saving the princess via collectible items will be used in almost every 3D Mario game afterwards. This game laid the foundations for what a 3D platformer should be. Now let's talk about the gameplay. Super Mario 64 is a semi-linear platforming game with you collecting stars in order to open doors to go to more levels to repeat the cycle. You don't really have to get certain stars in a certain order. That's why I call it a semi-linear experience. You can choose to get any star you want in a level, but you only unlock new levels when you have the stars to do so. And some levels are blocked by doors where you need a key, which you can get from defeating Bowser in one of his 3 stages. Sound. There isn't much that needs to be said. The game has a wide variety of sound effects and music. The game's music is not only some of the greatest video game music ever made, but it's some of the greatest music ever made. The sound effects are very cartoony and fit with the aesthetic of the game perfectly. Mario is voiced, as usual, by Charles Martinet, and Mario's voice in this game is beyond iconic. It's easily some of his best work, if not his best work. Then, there's the controls. Super Mario 64 was one of those games where you could tell that the entire controller was basically modeled for that one game. The Nintendo 64 controller is a very strange controller that many people are divided on. I like it more than I hate it, but I could see why so many people find it weird. But if any game uses the controller properly, it's Mario 64. The game works best on that specific controller, making it, in my opinion, the only proper way to play Mario 64. The analog stick moves Mario in any direction at varying speeds, depending on how far you move the stick in any particular direction. The A button jumps, B attacks, the C pad and R bumper controls the camera, and the Z trigger crouches. You can use these buttons to pull off various moves like ground pounding, long jumping, etc. The controls feel very tight throughout the whole game. There are quite a few times that the control can get a little awkward, and I have died multiple times due to the controls, but it's nothing unusual, and most of the time the game controls perfectly fine. You also have to take into account that I don't have the greatest N64 controller ever made, so a lot of those hiccups could be attributed to the controller itself rather than a game issue. Now let's talk about items, enemies, and stages. The items of Mario 64 are pretty basic and to the point. You got your regular coins, red coins, and blue coins. Red coins are unique in that you need to collect 8 of them in every level to get a power star. Blue coins are usually reserved for boxes that you need to pound on to grab the coins within a time limit. The payoff is that you get 5 coins for every 1 blue coin. The point of the coins is to collect 100 of them in every stage to get a power star, or to get a high score in every stage. Beyond coins, there are power-ups in Mario 64, which includes the 1-up mushroom, the wing hat, the metal hat, and the ghost hat. The wing hat allows you to fly or float, the metal hat prevents you from taking damage from any enemies and allows you to walk at the bottom of certain bodies of water, and the ghost hat allows you to pass through enemies and through some objects and walls. The 1-up mushroom does exactly what you think it does, it gives you an extra life. All of these caps are necessary in order to get all of the stars in the castle, but theoretically you could go through the whole game without using a single one of these power-ups. This makes Super Mario 64 a rather unique Mario title, and that the game is more so based on Mario's basic abilities rather than power-ups or items. There's a wide variety of enemies in Mario 64, and I won't bother listing them all off here. You have your staple Mario enemies like Goombas and Koopas, but you have more unique ones like Floosh the Shark, Amp the Electric Ball, Heave-Ho the robot dustpan thing, and Unagi the Eel. These enemies all fit very well into the environments they're placed in, and it's hard to imagine some of these levels without their unique enemies. Speaking of which, it's finally time to talk about the levels of Super Mario 64. There are 15 main stages, with secret levels and Bowser stages added on for good measure. Every stage has its place in the game, and all of them have at least some element of fun, even the worst ones. The only stage that I would consider rather lackluster, though, is the Big Small World. That stage has a ton of annoying obstacles and slopes and platforms, and was quite frustrating to play through going through it again. Other than that, every stage in the game is tons of fun and very, very replayable. Whew. So, final thoughts? Super Mario 64 is an absolutely incredible game that will go down in history as one of the greatest games of all time. This game also shines in its replay value because even if you've done everything there is to do in the game, you could still play it over and over again.
Overall, I 100% recommend this game for everyone, and I think everyone should just play it at least once on the N64. It's a mainstay of the console. But if you want my personal opinion, Super Mario 64 is the greatest game ever made. There, I said it.